Well, hello friend, and welcome back to Fun Ahead TV. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And no, you're not seeing double. We do in fact have two 986 Boxsters at the Fun Ahead headquarters currently.
Rippin', tearin'. The rippin' and the tearin'.
The one in the back, the silver one, is the budget-based model Boxster, the one that we just finished up a light mechanical refresh on, wherein we did all of the timing chain guides and several other while you're in there. So this one right here belongs to a subscriber of mine. This particular subscriber is a longtime viewer of the channel, a very avid, loyal viewer of the channel. All around great guy, huge Porsche enthusiast, and he has this stunning example of a 986 Boxster. This is a 2001 Boxster base model, so it is a 986.2. He bought this car several years ago, and he has basically been doing little odds and ends over the past few years to kind of bring this thing back up to snuff. That sounds very familiar to a lot of the things that we do on this channel, where we buy older Porsches or older cars and get them back to their former glory. And that's exactly what he's been doing with this car. And in this case, he wants to do an engine out service on this car, similar to the one we just did on the 986 Boxster. He's kind of worried that there could be some deep issues with this engine. I think he's just more or less concerned because the possibility is always there. But we're gonna dig into this thing to make sure that there are in fact no serious looming catastrophic issues with this engine. And we're also gonna go ahead and do pretty much the same thing that we just did to the budget-based model Boxster, where we rejuvenate a lot of the things that can go bad in these engines over time. Aging rubbers and plastics, always the name of the game. So in this episode, we're going to begin jumping right in by taking the engine out of this thing. That way we can begin doing the full light mechanical restoration to this thing so that it can be good to go for a long time to come. All right, now before diving into it, let's take a close look at this thing, shall we? Now this thing is a 2001 base model Boxster, like I said, and it has just over 121,000 miles on the clock, which is mind-blowing because of how clean this car is. So Eric, the owner of this car, has done a wonderful job of doing some updates to this car, especially cosmetically. He's done in quite a few mechanical things, to be honest, to bring this thing back up to snuff. He said it was a little bit neglected a few years ago when he bought it, but granted, it is a 23, almost 24-year-old car now. That's literally what we do on this channel all the time. So, you know, that's why Eric and I get along so well. I think we're all like-minded folks around here, you know? We like buying the older cars and doing the stuff to them to keep them on the road. And that's exactly what he's been doing here. Look at these super fresh headlights. I don't even know if he like resurfaced these or if these are just brand spanking new, but they are absolutely perfect. Dude, Eric, you're making us all look bad. Those are incredible. He also swapped out for the clear side markers, clean. He said that the wheels that were on the car, which were these, were just not in good shape, so he went ahead and got some aftermarket ones, went black, which, I mean, that looks really good with the lapis blue, I think this is. But yeah, dark blue with black, that's nice. And overall, this paint is in very good shape. There's a few little spots here and there, but you'll have that with a 23, almost 24-year-old car with 121,000 miles. Interior looks incredibly clean as well. You know, there's some wear on the primary touch points, you know, steering wheel, shifter, you'll have that, but seats are in great looking shape. Overall, I mean, yeah, this interior looks very, very good. His brake rotors are even super clean. I mean, what? Eric, how, dude. Anyway, so that's a super quick tour of Eric's 2001 986.2 base model Boxster. Let's go ahead and start taking the engine out of this thing so we can do a nice mechanical refresh on it, shall we? Before we dive into the car, I do just want to say really quickly that actually Redline and I have parted ways. We did so on great terms, by the way, and you'll probably, in fact, still see me use Redline products from time to time. I still think they're absolutely wonderful products, but I've decided to kind of move up in the world as far as oils go on the channel. More on that to come in a future video. But in the meantime, I still have some Redline merch left over. I have this size large Redline t-shirt. If you want it, buy either a full zip Fun Ahead TV hoodie, size large, or a classic Fun Ahead TV t-shirt, also size large, and I will throw this in with your order. And as a quick bonus, if you order a Fun Ahead TV straw hat, AKA the Head and Neck Protector 5000, I will throw in that flag right there.
I want that.
And if you order a large hoodie / large t-shirt and a hat, well, I'll just give you both. Quick PSA, go ahead and get yourself some Fun Ahead merch. Thank you in advance for supporting the channel. Alrighty, well, I got her up in the air. Let's go ahead and give her a quick inspection on the underside. What do you say? Right off the bat, holy cow. I am floored how absolutely clean this engine is. I don't see a single oil leak so far. I mean, there is absolutely no rust on this thing. It's wild. So Eric did mention that this car was an Oklahoma car prior to coming to Ohio. So it never saw road salt, and then he's treated it very, very well, and never ever lets it see road salt, or rain for that matter. Therefore, yeah, he has done a wonderful job maintaining its pristine, rust-free condition. And that is very apparent just by looking around on the bottom of this car. I mean, look at this thing. It is, I mean, look at these exhaust bolts. I just got done working on that car right there, and these bolts were literally just like, you could like touch them and then they would just like deteriorate and fall apart. Seems like he put some new O2 sensors in this car at some point, because those are absolutely brand new looking. Same with the post-cat ones. So on any car, by the way, you have two sets of O2 sensors. The ones upstream from the catalytic converter, that is actually what gives feedback to the ECU about air-fuel post-combustion. And then the ones post-catalytic converter, downstream ones, those are literally there just to monitor the condition of the catalytic converter. One big difference between the 0.1, 986.1 and the 986.2 is that you have two stages of cats for the first time. The 986.1 only has these cats right here. The headers do not have catalytic converters on them, so we have two stages of cats here. But everything else, actually, from here, from cat back, basically, is identical. It appears that he has swapped out the shocks on all four corners recently, because those are some brand new looking Bilsteins. We've got some new-ish looking bushings for the rear sway bar there. Yeah, overall, I mean, just, you know, without removing any undercovers or anything, I mean, this thing is absolutely spotless looking. Uh-oh, it appears we have a torn CV shaft boot. Not the end of the world. Obviously, you can just replace the boot, even though that's a total pain in the butt. Probably worth just replacing the entire CV shaft, but those are easy enough to swap out. It's going to be impossible to show on camera, but I looked at the inner CV shaft boots as well, and they are not in the greatest shape. So, yeah, probably time to replace those, by the way, Eric. And then on the back here, yeah, unfortunately, when you look at the exhaust, you do see some soot that has made its way out of the tailpipe. Eric has mentioned to me that that is a concern point for him. The 2.5s, 2.7s, 2.9s, 3.2s, they were all not so known for bore scoring. Obviously, this is a completely separate conversation for like another video, but all I'm saying is those engines were not known to have the bore scoring because they didn't have the iron print or ferro print coated pistons or whatever that's called, which would then fail, and then you would have the aluminum touching the Locasil cylinder liner directly, and then that caused bore scoring. These actually just had like an iron alloy, or I forget what they called it, but the iron was part of the material of the piston, which could not fail because it was just the material. That being said, we will of course keep an eye out for any sort of abnormalities. We will analyze each and every one of the spark plugs just to make sure that it looks like not any one of the cylinders is burning oil or anything like that. So this thing is obviously in impeccable cosmetic shape, but the question is, how is it mechanically? Let's start getting the powertrain out of this car so that we can start digging into this thing and find out. All right, start of a new day. We got access to the engine, took off the top and front engine covers, and we took off the bumper. I also drained the oil out of the engine. That's about as far as I got. But at least that sets us up nicely for today to begin just kind of hitting the ground running and getting a lot of the stuff off of this car. And my plan is to, as long as everything goes well, to get the engine out of this thing today, and that way we can really start digging into it. I'm going to start working on the bottom side of the car, get everything loosened up down there. Basically, the bottom side of the car is where the majority of the hangups can occur in the event that we struggle to get something apart or what have you with rusty bolts or whatever. But honestly, like we saw yesterday, this car is absolutely immaculate. So hopefully, knock on wood, air, we don't end up having any rusty bolts or bolt shearing issues. I've never seen a car this clean underneath. It's absolutely insane. Actually, my 911 is about that clean. It was a Vegas car its entire life before it came to Ohio. It also has no rust, but honestly, this thing might be a little cleaner. Anyway, enough blibber blabbing. I'm gonna go ahead and start turning some wrenches on this bad girl. That way, we can get this powertrain out of it. All right, quick update time. Let me show you where the heck I'm at. So currently, well, as you can see, I've got tools all over the place because I've been working my little funhead buns off. I'm never gonna say that again. I'm sorry, I apologize. So like I mentioned, I've been working on the underside of the vehicle primarily. As you can see, I've got the exhaust off, I've got all the cross members off, I've got the CV shafts disconnected, and I'm currently draining the coolant. Also, obviously took all the undercovers off so I can get access to the stuffs up by those primary in and out coolant lines up there. Quick PSA. You don't need to put Loctite on the CV shaft bolts. These right here. See these? These are basically washers. You don't need to put Loctite on them. I promise you they're not gonna come loose. They just don't come loose. They're like basically flanged bolts. I mean, they're not, but they are because they have those little connector washer things. I have never seen someone use Loctite on these bolts before, but holy freaking cow. I think it took me an hour and a half to get 12 bolts off. And it's a miracle that I did. I honestly was like 2 minutes away from getting my angle grinder out or getting my cutting wheel out. So if you work on one of these cars, do not put Loctite on them, because the next time you go to take those bolts off, you're gonna strip them. These are Allen heads. They can't take a whole heck of a lot of torque before they just completely strip out on the inside. And just overcoming not only the torque of how much you need to torque these things, but also the resistance from the Loctite is absolutely going to strip them out. So what I did was I used a combination of vice grips to just clamp on the outside of this bolt like crazy and the normal Allen head on the inside. And between those two, I was miraculously able to turn each of the bolts, but it was a very, very slow process. Man, that was not an expected delay, but everything else has gone very smoothly. But anyway, so yeah, I'm just gonna get the coolant out of this here vehicle, and then we can really start moving on to disconnecting stuff. Obviously, it's a process doing one of these engine outs, but none of it's terribly hard. Obviously, there's delays that come along the way, but it's all just very labor and time intensive. And kind of knowing what to do is a big part of that. All right, well, I'm gonna continue to let coolant drain out of this thing as I disconnect a couple other little things on the bottom side here. But let's go ahead and roll some time-lapse footage of this engine and transmission coming out the bottom, because it is about that time. Well, friend, and here it is. The 2.7 liter M96 and its respective Getrag 5-speed manual transmission out of Eric's beautiful 986.2 base model Boxster. So engine extraction went fairly well. Like I said, this car is very clean overall. With the exception of the CV shafts and getting those disconnected, everything else went super smoothly, easy peasy, got her out, no problem. So I am super duper excited to start tearing into this thing and see what we got beneath these valve covers. But that being said, we are unfortunately not going to be doing that in today's episode. That is going to be for next week's episode, when we are going to get nitty gritty and do a deep dive into this thing, where we will then find out if this beautiful 986.2 Boxster is just cosmetically beautiful, or if it has really, really nice underpinnings as well, in the form of a super nice running engine. I'm excited. I'm very excited. So if you enjoyed this episode, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps out my channel immensely. And please subscribe if you want to see even more super sweet stuff coming down the pipeline with this car. Lots more super sweet Porsche content coming down the pipeline to you via Fun Ahead TV every single week. Thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate you so very much. Yes, I'm looking right at you, and I will see you all in the next episode. Later, friend.
Rippin', tearing, the rippin' and the tearing.